That's very sad.
Right.
Right.
Sandeep Sharma is just logging in.
So we are live on Facebook. So we begin the session. I am Namrata Upadhyay, clinical psychologist at Psycare Jasola, New Delhi. Today we are going to have an interactive question and answer session, a panel discussion on schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a serious mental disorder that affects how brain normally functions. It interferes with person's ability to act, think, or feel. To fight the stigmas associated with schizophrenia and create awareness amongst the people for this mental disorder, World Schizophrenia Day is observed on May 24th every year, which was yesterday. And so we have our today's discussion around the same topic. The topic of today's interactive session is schizophrenia, mental disorders in pandemic. And we have all our panelists here. I will quickly introduce them, and then we can move ahead further. Our first panelist is Dr. Asif Iqbal Ahmed, who is professor and senior consultant psychiatry and also founder of Psycare, Neuropsychiatric Care Center. He's a gold medalist postgraduate in psychiatry from AFMC Pune. He's retired surgeon captain from the Army Medical Corps, where he rendered Yemen services for 25 years in healthcare. During his illustrious career, he received Chief of Naval Staff Commendation and citations for Visist Seva Medal and Nausena Medal, devotion to duty while catering to the mental health needs of the community. We also have IMASP dignitaries.
Okay.
We have Dr. Sharma, Dr. Sandeep Sharma here. He's the president, South Delhi branch 1920. Dr. Sharma will quickly give welcome note in 30 seconds, in about 30 seconds. Dr. Sharma, are you there? Okay. So next few of the dignitaries are Dr. Rajiv Ardre, President SDB 2021, Dr. Rajiv Sinha, Secretary 1920, Dr. Divakar Gupta, Secretary 2021.
And Dr. R.K. Bakshi.
And we have Dr. R.K. Bakshi, Finance Secretary 1920 and 21, who will also give us vote of thanks in the end. We have doctors here to give the welcome note.
Yes, I think Dr. Satish.
Sandeep Sharma.
Dr. Sandeep Sharma, are you there, sir?
Yes, I can see him. Yes, Dr. Sandeep, go ahead. I hope you are not mute, Dr. Sandeep. You will have to unmute yourself. Can you hear us, Dr. Sandeep? Yeah, okay, I'm going to unmute you. Manish, can you unmute him? I can see that his mic is mute.
Just give me a second.
Hello. Can you see him? And
अपना mic unmute करो. अपना mic unmute करो. नहीं अभी नहीं किया.
हो गया.
Yes, Dr. Sharma.
Well, on behalf of IMA South Delhi branch, I welcome everyone, and I think this is a wonderful topic which Psycare has taken up. I thank Dr. Bobby Grewal, Dr. G.S. Grewal for taking this initiative, and special thanks to Professor Asif Iqbal Ahmed, who is a founder of Psycare, and Mr. Prashad, Ms. Madhu Juneja, Ms. Namrata Upadhyay, I heard her speaking and she was introducing everyone, and Dr. Ananya Chaudhary. Well, this is a wonderful topic, and I think we all need some kind of a help from psychiatrists during this pandemic time. I think we all have this kind of an issue. Every day, every webinar, we discuss that we are some kind of getting this schizophrenic, getting some kind of a psych that yes, we are going to suffer by this or we are suffering from this. Every night you have some kind of a problem. Just
आगे है
today
ना
I-
आप?
So this is a
अच्छा,
wonderful
मैं बोलता
topic.
हूँ, मैं
I
बोलता
now request
नहीं, अभी मैं बुलाता हूँ.
now Dr. Asif Iqbal to start the session.
Namrata, I think Dr. Sinha is also on board. We can invite Dr. Sinha, R.K. Sinha.
So we have Dr.
R.K.
Rajiv
Sinha.
Sinha.
Yeah, that's right.
Dr. Rajiv Sinha is President South Delhi Branch 2021. I invite him to speak and share some of the insights. So share the welcome notes. Dr. Rajiv Sinha.
Yeah. Manish, you will have to unmute, sir, or Dr.
I'll
Rajiv.
do so. I'll do so. I cannot see him. Yeah, he's here now.
So Dr.
I've
Sinha will
unmuted.
quickly share his welcome notes so that we can proceed further.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
you can
please
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yes, Dr. Sinha.
I welcome all the delegates today on this webinar, important webinar. Dr. Asif to speak on psychiatric problem related to COVID and schizophrenia. This is a nice topic, and I think this is very pertinent to this COVID period. So I welcome everyone on behalf of IMS South Delhi branch and PsyCare. Thank you. Let us proceed, sir. Thank you.
Namrata, Dr. R.K. Bakshi.
Yeah, we have Dr. R.K. Bakshi here with us. He is the Finance Secretary 1920 and 2021. He'll give a quick welcome note and also join us for the vote of thanks in the end. Dr. R.K. Bakshi.
Can you unmute yourself, Dr. Rakesh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been
welcome.
trying.
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. I could just understand one word which I think you will make me understand, and everyone: manage mental health. I think that suffices everything. And what you guide us, we'll go on from here. Welcome, sir. Please.
Thank you.
Right. So I'll also quickly introduce our other panelist, Honorary Dr. G.S. Grewal. And Dr. Grewal is the President of Indian Medical Association, Delhi State 2021 DMA. Also been past President of IMA South Delhi Branch. He's the Chairman of Wellness Health and You, Mental Age Friendly India Initiative, Editor-in-Chief of Magazine for Elders, Voice of Elders, and also Senior Consultant, Elder Care, Fortis Escorts Hospital, Okhla. So with this now, we'll begin the poll. We'll quickly begin the poll. So the poll question is, what is schizophrenia? Is it same as split personality? You have answers in yes. You have to answer in yes and no. You have 30 seconds to answer. In the meantime, I'll quickly introduce our other panelist. Our next panelist is Mrs. Madhu Juneja, who is a mental health volunteer counselor since last 20 years. She is presently volunteering with Max Healthcare and Sanjeevani Society for Mental Health. She has worked closely with caregivers of PMIs and cancer patients to provide support. She has been active on various panels and workshops on mental health. And she is an ex-chairperson and member of Executive Committee of Sanjeevani Society of Mental Health. So with this, we have our poll results in front of us, which is quite interesting. So 50% of them says yes, and 15% of them says no. So we'll take it up in our next session. We'll take up quickly our second poll question. We'll quickly take up second poll question. Yeah. What are the causes of schizophrenia? And we have our options on the screen. Weak character, genetics, environment, brain chemistry, none of these, all of above. So while you answer this, I'll quickly introduce rest of our panelists. We have Dr. Ananya.
Hello. Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Namrata, introduce Ananya in the meanwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I'll
I'm in a meeting.
introduce
Web
Dr.
meeting. Can
Ananya.
you call me after 5?
Dr. Ananya has been practicing psychiatrist and working in the field of mental health for more than a decade. She has trained and worked in organizations like Institute of Human Behavior and Applied Sciences and Institute of Mental Health and Hospital, IMHH Andhra, where she gained extensive experiences in managing patients with major mental health illnesses like schizophrenia and their families, both in outpatient and inpatient basis. She is currently working as the medical officer in charge of Psycare Hospital, Jasola Vihar, New Delhi. So while we are waiting for the poll results, I can quickly introduce our last panelist, who happens to be a caregiver, a very special panelist.
Were we not special?
Yeah, we all are special. And he is a 77-year-old civil services retired officer and a caregiver of a person living with schizophrenia. So Mr. MP, so 77-year-old civil services retired officer and a caregiver of a person living with schizophrenia.
And sir, he is special because, of course, you are extra special. He is special because of the fact that he has been caring for a person who's suffering from schizophrenia. That's his son for the last 45 years. I mean, and the other thing is, he is special by his absence, actually, in a way. He has kindly consented for us at Psycare to share his experiences, though he will not be able to present himself. That is out of confidentiality
Salute him.
And I'd asked him to check with his son if his son was all right sharing the information. So the son was okay, but naturally, sir, we understand as doctors that confidentiality is a big issue. So he's not going to be here. So that way he's special. He is amongst the audience, but we will not be naming him. And whatever he has to convey will be conveyed through Dr. Ananya. So Dr. Grewal, over to you.
Well, thank you, Asif, and it's a pleasure to have this discussion. Years ago, I think most of my family practitioners and GPs will agree, schizophrenia was pagalpan. That's it. There was one word for schizophrenia. Kya hai? Wo pagal hai. Thanks to the research, the medication, the quality of care, specialized centers for mental health, things are changing. I proudly say that I have 4 or 5 established schizophrenics who are doing exceptionally well in their life. So I start with this note, thanks to research and specialized mental health centers who have brought about a massive change in the quality of life of people who suffer from this disease. Well, the question is, I'll speak from the general practitioner's perspective. And I put in a question to the panel that while we see a lot of patients, it's not so easy for us to decide what route needs to be taken, because it takes time to diagnose and the options are not so easily available. So I think I'll start with posing a question to the panel that a patient came to me about his 17-year-old son who has started staying isolated and does not eat with them anymore. He has also started talking to his dead grandfather, and he has started claiming that he can cure corona and soon he will reveal God's plan about all this. The patient asked me, The first question, doctor, please let me know, whom do I see to get my son some treatment?
Yes,
Do I
sir.
see? It starts from there first. The first
Yes.
question.
Yes, sir. I will request Dr. Ananya to take this question and answer it. But sir, before we go further, I thought that it would be very interesting to share the poll findings with the House, and then we can take your question. So the poll, interestingly, the results itself came split. Hung government ho gayi, sir, 50-50. 50% say it is split personality, and exactly 50%, and these are not rigged polls, you all can see. So 50% are saying that it is not split personality. That was the first. And second question was about the causes of schizophrenia. So 50% again said genetics, and 21% said it is due to the environment, and another 27% said that all of the above. So I'll tell you what exactly is schizophrenia, what are we dealing with? What is this topic that we have? And as Dr. Grewal very sensitively brought it out, that there was a time before the advent of treatment that these were the people who were called typically pagal or insane, which is very unfortunate. We will come to this issue also. I'm sure a lot of people will have questions about the stigma associated with mental illness. But you know what schizophrenia is? Schizophrenia has been described as the century's worst disease of mankind. Yes, it is not HIV, it is not COVID that we are struggling with. Schizophrenia is the one which has been said to be the worst disease of the 20th century. And unfortunately, very few of us know about it. Very few people also know that the purple color is associated with schizophrenia. That's why I'm dressed in that. And schizophrenia, the causes are, complex. Suffice it to say that it is multifactorial. There are genetics involved. There is a little bit of contribution of upbringing. There is also a theory which says that it could be a viral cause. When the mother was pregnant with the child in the 3rd trimester, she had a viral infection. So that could lead to schizophrenia. Having said that, what I want to underline is that it is not due to faulty upbringing. It is not due to weak character. I'm so glad none of you on this audience feel that it is due to weak character. That's probably because we all are educated. There are many people who believe it is the result of witchcraft and the like. It is none of these. And having said that, I want to tell you that it is basically a disorder of thought, and it is called a split personality because there is a schism, there is a split between what an individual thinks, what he feels, and how he acts. So now this is what is perceived as madness. That here's a guy who's talking, his thought process is about the death of his mother, and is laughing. So there is no connect between his thought process and his emotion, and at the same time is dancing. So that's why it is called split personality. What it actually comprises of are two kinds of symptoms. I request the indulgence of other panelists because this is the core of the subject. I want to get it done and out of the way so that we understand what we are dealing with. So that's why I'm taking a little bit time explaining what schizophrenia is. So this has two core symptoms. One is called the positive symptoms. Now, positive symptoms, they're not positive in the good way. They are called positive because these are symptoms which should not be there in an individual, but they are there. And the second class of symptoms are known as negative symptoms. Now, these are things which should be there in an individual's personality, but they aren't there. So what do I mean by that? Positive symptoms means an individual should not have delusions or hallucinations. Now, what that is, Ananya will explain to you. Negative symptoms are an individual should have initiative, he should have drive, he should have memory and thought process. They are not there, so they are called negative symptoms. So having given you a brief description of what schizophrenia is, Ananya, can you just address what question Dr. Grewal asked you?
Thank you, Dr. Grewal, for putting in an important question. So coming back to the question that you had put forward, that one of your patients who is 17-year-old, he started to stay isolated and he does not eat with the family members. And also he has started talking to his dead grandfather. And he also says that he can cure corona. Okay. Now coming back to this question, it is very clear. Like, I will clarify the symptoms as we go ahead. So it's mentioned here that there has been few things which we need to pay attention to. There has been a recent change in behavior. Now, so this is a very important thing. It's very clear that the patient was not previously withdrawn and isolated. So point number one is that he has started remaining withdrawn and isolated. And this is a change in his behavior. The second thing is also that he is hearing things. Hearing things as in he said that he can hear his grandfather who has already passed away and he has been interacting with his grandfather. So this is what we call as a hallucination. Basically, he can hear things or he can see things which are not actually present. This is what we call as a hallucination. And the other thing which is mentioned in this query is that he can, cure corona and things like that. So, which seems like, since he is not related to the field of science, he is not a scientist or he is not working with a cure of corona. So it becomes very clear that this is kind of a belief which is a false belief. So what is known as a delusion. So there are very clear, symptoms, like Dr. Asif had mentioned previously, that there are certain positive symptoms like delusions and hallucinations, which is very evident in this case. And there are some negative symptoms. Negative symptoms like a person should have drive, a person should be interactive, should be social. So these negative symptoms are also present in him. That is, he has withdrawn, he is not that interactive and he is isolated. So with these symptoms, it becomes very clear that he has certain features which are indicative that he is not in contact with the reality, and he has certain symptoms which are grossly deviant from normal experiences, which highly indicates that a possibility of psychosis is there. He might be suffering from schizophrenia. I will not commit to the diagnosis at this point, but it is highly likely he has that. So it's very important that he should see a psychiatrist and for his proper assessment and treatment. Now I think we move on to the next part of the question. I believe that was who should he consult?
That's right.
Yeah. So this is a very common question. Like, people get confused. Should I see, a medicine specialist? Should I see a neurologist? Should I see a psychiatrist? Who should I see? Which doctor should I see? Now, when we talk about, it's a very basic thing, but I'll still address it. When we talk about a physician is a person who takes care of your physical health. It may be as simple as a fever and cold to hypertension to diabetes and to other issues. So he is a person who's going to take care of your physical health in a way. Now, when we move on to a neurologist obviously takes care of issues related to the brain, which can include things like epilepsy, a paralysis, a stroke, or brain fever, or encephalitis as we call it. So in case you have any of these, you need to see a neurologist. But in case you have mental health issues like the case that we have discussed currently, it is important that he sees a specialist, that is a psychiatrist.
Do we have anything called neuropsychiatrist?
Yeah, answering to that, this is a term which may mean either ways. Like, a person who studies psychiatry also has some knowledge of neurology and medicine which you have studied. So many of them would like to write the term neuropsychiatrist.
Okay.
So that is how it is.
Sir, actually, there is nothing specifically. There is a DM in psychiatry are only three, sir. Addiction, and you'll be happy to know there is also elder now. Geriatric psychiatry has become a super specialty, and third one is forensic psychiatry. Fourth, child psychiatry is also coming in now. It has already started only in KGMC and in NIMHANS. So these are the four. There is nothing called neuropsychiatry.
Like,
Ideally speaking, somebody who has an MD in psychiatry and also has an MD in neurology should call himself neuropsychiatrist.
well, wherever there is a vacuum, people fill their own names.
Yes.
Okay, let's move further.
Yeah.
Now, mental illness. Mental illness. Now that Dr. Ananya has said that it is a mental illness, she will establish whether it is schizophrenia or not. But is mental illness like any other illness and should be treated in a similar manner?
So
It's
we'll
a
go for a poll.
Would you like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
poll on this? Manish, would you like to poll on this, please?
Yeah, sure. I'll go for a poll over here. Just give me a moment.
But I think here our audience is so well read and educated. I'm sure most of them will be giving the correct answers. But anyway, go ahead. So, Dr. Grewal, we have the results. Can you see the results?
Dr.
Not
Arif, you
yet.
spoke about a purple color.
Yes.
What is that? How do you say justify? I don't know about what about the purple color linked to schizophrenia?
Sir, actually, they have the way we associate pink with a girl and blue with a boy. They have tried to attach. See, the thing is, people want to draw attention to a particular illness to create awareness about it. Schizophrenia suffers from a lot of stigma. So it was the idea of WHO that when you link it with a color, there will be classical conditioning. And when you see purple color, you may remember a patient of schizophrenia. Same with elder abuse, also has been associated with purple color.
Purple.
So the results are here, Dr. Bobby, in front of you. Would you like to share with us?
I want to know why would even one person consider it not to be a disease? There are 12 people who said 12%.
Probably they want to treat themselves by whatever the role, It's something.
Yes.
Probably they are the wiser ones.
No, the disease wants to.
I would like to address that, Dr. Grewal. Can I attempt to address that?
It's important. You see, as physicians, why do we not consider it to be a disease like any other disease? I think that's important. You need to address that.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I think, sir, a lot of it depends on tangibility and about the fact that the knowledge which is there. Now, most of the physical illnesses are tangible. They have an etiological cause. Now, this COVID, let's talk about COVID, which I'm sure everybody will say it is a medical illness. Nobody is going to say it's a figment of imagination. Now, that COVID has an identifiable etiological agent, and you know that these are the symptoms. So you know about the symptom that you will develop cough, you will have fever, and when you do a swab test, you will get it positive. So that is taken as a medical illness. Now, unfortunately, in psychiatry, most of the symptoms which are there can be seen.
You got muted. You got muted, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You got muted. Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I was saying that, tangible. There is no tangible cause for schizophrenia like a etiological agent. That's why there are so many theories. That is one. So people, when they don't find a cause for it, they attribute it to other things. And the second thing is also that the symptoms of a physical illness are very discrete. 98.6 is the normal temperature. It goes above that, you have fever. Whereas it is not so in mental illnesses. Most of the symptoms, to a certain extent, are seen in normal people also. It is only a matter of a mental health professional differentiating when has it become a disorder and it is an illness. So for a lay person, they think that this is just on the other extreme of abnormal behavior, and it is not an illness. And since we don't know, and I blame psychiatrists also, that we have not been able to communicate, go out into the community and create awareness that these are legitimate illnesses. Yes, Dr. Grewal.
I think, we number of our physicians are as maybe, it's not a judgmental statement, but maybe having similar knowledge to many of our patients. And many of people, because what is important, what I want to pick upon is when treatment is not easily available, we attribute it to other reasons. वो एग्जाम में फेल हो गया था ना, तो थोड़ा घबरा गया है. वो आजकल उसके पिताजी से बात बनती नहीं है ना, बिजनेस में घाटा हो गया, तो he started behaving like this. To designate it as an independent disease, irrespective of these happenings in life, which may be the aggravating factor and not the causative factor, is an important message to the physicians. Please do not attribute it to some happening and try and see them as symptomatology of an existing disease. That's important.
Thank you, sir. You got this point very well. It needs to be understood. It's worth emphasizing that we all will have stressors in our life, and we will keep facing life situations, and that may precipitate an underlying illness. There is a genetic vulnerability, and hence an individual may present with symptoms and we attribute it as a cause, which is not correct. Which is not correct.
Let's go further.
Yes, sir.
I think Namrata needs to come in from here. Okay. Now it goes back to Ananya.
Yes, sir.
Namrata, who takes over?
Yeah, so I'll just add to the poll question, and I also have an opinion. I would like to share that with the panel and with our audience. The poll question was that mental illness is like any medical illness and should be treated in a similar manner. So in a way, it's tricky, and in a way I disagree here a little bit that it should not be treated in a similar manner, because what happens that, as Dr. Asif says, that medical illness have a tangible, symptoms, symptomatology you can see, measure, and quantify. It does not happen the same with mental illnesses. Also, a lot of time in mental illness, patient does not have the insight that he has those symptoms. Okay, so a lot of time family members have to, be more perceptive, should be, more in a way aware about the symptomatologies, and then they should be the one who should, if they feel that there are certain changes in the behavior, they should be the one who should seek the medical, the guidance from mental health professionals. So here it does not happen the same way like it happens with other medical illnesses, where the patient has the awareness that he has the illness and he himself will go to the doctor. So what may happen here that the patient does not realize that he has the illness. So it is up to the judgment of the family members and the caregivers that they take them against their will at times to the doctor and seek help.
Point
right.
Point taken.
Yeah. So from here, here is also a question that I would like to ask Dr. Ananya. So one of the patient generally asked me that her daughter started the treatment for schizophrenia. So can she take medicines for fever, cold, and cough, or should she stop her schizophrenia medication during the fever medication?
Dr. Grewal, you also must be having quite a few, and I'm sure our doctor friends who are here, there must be patients of psychiatric illnesses, who are under management with a psychiatrist, and they come to you with physical illnesses. So I think this will address that issue.
Yes,
and I would like you to answer this.
It's a common. Please, Dr. Ananya, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a question which I think all of us have encountered at some point or the other. So what is important here is that the psychiatric medications are never started at a whim and never stopped at a whim. So they are started very carefully and titrated up very carefully, and same way when we discontinue medication with a person. So if you have a common condition like fever, cold or cough, minor conditions, usually there is very minimal interaction with the psychiatric medication that you're taking. So there is no harm in continuing that. But at the same time, it is very important that you speak to your doctor and your psychiatrist before you take any other medication. But what is not advisable is abruptly stopping your psychiatric medication. So simple medications usually do not have much interaction, but my point is that talk to your psychiatrist about that. Do not abruptly stop medication.
I think, you see, all medication, say if you're a diabetic and you get fever, so you don't stop your diabetic medication when you take fever. But my question, I think the question which I wanted to point was raised was, are there some medications, very commonly paracetamol or chlorpheniramine or phenylephrine, these medicines, can they interfere with the antipsychotic medications?
Yeah. So usually what happens is, suppose you're taking an antihistaminic or something, you need to take an antihistaminic with your psychiatric medication, and you're on a medication which is sedative, or you already have a sedative which is given to you. Obviously the interaction may lead to over sedation and stuff like that. Now, what is to be more careful is when you're talking about, maybe paracetamol or a painkiller or something, medications like if you're on lithium, then you need to be careful about what medication you're taking. If you are on clozapine, then you have to be careful about if you're taking any other medication which can lower the seizure threshold. So there are certain medications which you have to be very careful, about what you're taking along with it. And so the general advice.
I think that's an important message to my colleagues, that in diabetes or hypertension, you may not have so much of influence on the psychiatric medication, but other diseases can. I think I'll ask, I think I must inform the attendees here. We had taken up, I had spoken to a number of my colleagues, and I've just made a gist of questions which I put forward to the panel. This is all on your behalf. If there's anything else that you need to add to my question, please open your chat box and type it there so that the panelists can see the question immediately. Now, very commonly, I have noticed, and many of my colleagues may have noticed, that people on mental health diseases gain a lot of weight. And I have come across weight gain as one of the very common reasons for the patients or their family members discontinuing medicine. So I put this question to the panelists, that weight gain, is it a condition to requires change in medication or stopping of medication? What is the opinion of the panel on weight gain in mental health illness on medication?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to address this crucial issue, because we as psychiatrists also feel that weight gain is a public enemy for the patient as well as for the psychiatrist. Patients, certain medications do cause weight gain, and that weight gain in this society which has obsession with size 0 makes a lot of people stop medication. Now that is a huge detriment to their illness, and it causes relapse, and it makes the prognosis of the illness that much worse. But the fact remains that medication is not the sole factor in patients of psychiatry, which causes weight gain. There are multiple issues. That during an active illness, like for example, depression and obesity are also very common, sir. Now, during active illness like depression, people may lead unhealthy lifestyle, with lack of exercise. The intake of food may be high in sugar or fats. So that may be the basic cause of actually weight gain. And we are attributing it to the medication. So the medication is only causing or exacerbating the weight gain, I do accept that certain medications have this tendency, have a side effect, like all other medications have. Even paracetamol causes acute fulminant hepatic failure. So if the weight gain gets unacceptable, there are so many drugs available in our armamentarium, they can be substituted. So instead of stopping, and if any of your patients are gaining weight, sir, it would be worthwhile for the doctors, for the family physicians to send the patient back to us to say, okay, go discuss and we could substitute the drug. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that clarifies that weight gain per se is not medicine oriented alone. That's important, because with the mental health illness, their physical activities also deteriorate. Now, so when you say lack of exercise, many of our patients have hypertension and diabetes while undergoing treatment for psychological disease. Is it difficult to consult both doctors?
Sir, I think I would rather pose this question back to you, because if a patient is seeing a psychiatrist as well as a general practitioner, or let's say he's under care of endocrinologist, at least for me, a lot of my patients say, doctor, it is very difficult to consult both of you. I come and see you also, I go and see. So how do we collectively as doctors address this issue, sir?
I'm glad you put the option back to me, because this is the question that will be encouraging all the panelists today, all the attendees today, that any patient that you're dealing, we have ladies here who are treating, for obstetrics or even for DUBs or any gynecological illness. We have other physicians as attendees. Now the question comes, which is not common to link to only psychiatric consultations. It is a question of utilizing expertise service consultants to run my GP practice. It's a question on the whole. So we need to seek from you. I think first and foremost, I admit that as a GP, if I'm treating diabetes and hypertension, I need expert inputs for the psychiatric illness. I may not seek special opinion for hypertension, but for psychiatric illness, because of the lesser knowledge about schizophrenia with us, we do need specialist opinion inputs. And the system, I think, I am fortunate that I have a good referral relationship with Ananya, and I do keep utilizing her services, and the regular treatment carries on. From our side, it is needed. And I think you agree that from your side also it is needed that the person carries on his hypertension, diabetes treatment with me and comes to you for psychiatric, consultation. I think that's Dr. Ananya, you agree with that?
Yeah, that's true, because there is another issue that a lot of people feel that patients who have psychiatric illness don't have medical illness. A lot of people tend to think like that. Isko to kabhi sardi bhi nahi hota, isko bukhar bhi nahi hota. But it's the reverse, because they neglect they're more likely to neglect their health. So their physical condition, like, diabetes, hypertension, all those things may be much more uncontrolled. And in that case, the regular interaction and regular care of the physician is of utmost importance.
Sir,
Dr. Asif, I hope you're watching the chat box very carefully.
Yes, I am, sir, and I will address those questions. Yes, sir.
We have Dr. Subir Majumdar, Manjira Majumdar, there's Dr. Karuna Kini also. So kindly just keep a note, and in between, if you can just keep answering the questions, I'll appreciate.
Right, sir. What I will do is during the course of discussion, we will address these questions. Otherwise, we will, in the end, I will address all these questions one by one.
If you can, in between also just in one-liners, keep answering, that will be useful.
Yeah. Sure. So this was a point about jointly handling patients who have physical illnesses as well as psychiatric disorders. Sir, I want to bring to attention of the audience and yourself and the esteemed members here a very sad and a tragic thing which I want to bring your attention to. The life expectancy of patients of schizophrenia is nearly 12 to 15 years lower than that of general population, sir. Depression, the life expectancy of a patient suffering from recurrent depressive disorder is nearly 12 years lesser than general population. So I want to highlight the point that psychiatric illnesses kill you earlier. I mean, it doesn't have to be a suicide to say that, depression resulted in death. But psychiatric illnesses hamper an individual's ability to deal with his physical illness as well. So as a physician, if you're going to focus only on diabetes and hypertension and not look after his mental condition, he's not going to be able to look after his own physical illness as well, sir. So it is very important for all the doctors to understand that we are your allies in trying to not only improve the quality of life, which again is very subjective. Of course, the quantity of life also will increase if we manage psychiatric illnesses effectively, right? So now that there are caregivers also here.
Yeah, please.
I think they've been patiently watching, and Madhuji is also here, who's an NGO volunteer with 20 years of experience, where she's been working with patients of psychiatric disorders. And as I told you in the beginning, that the caregiver, Mr. Prasad, has kindly consented for us to share his experiences, though he would not like to be identified here. So let's ask them their first-hand experience. And Dr. Ananya, on behalf of Mr. MP, would you answer this question, that how did you come to know that your family member has schizophrenia and how did you deal with it? So this is a reply from Mr. MP.
Yeah, so it is a record of what the parent has sent. So I'm going to read it out as he has sent it to me. So what is mentioned, that his son had passed class 12th and he had joined BE in electronic engineer in Pune in 1994. Till 1994, there was no noticeable change in the patient. In 1995, he cleared his first semester of engineering. After that, in 1996, he started having problems in focusing and he started having anxiety issues. So he was having problems mainly related to his studies. Subsequent to that, they had consulted a psychiatrist in AIIMS and he was started on treatment. Following which, he completed his engineering and worked on and off for some time till 2007. But during this entire period, he could never be fully functional or achieve the level of functioning that he had earlier. So there have been intermittent episodes of aggression. There have been some belief that he had done something wrong, and he would keep calling up these people who were mostly relatives, trying to confess about things which he had felt he had done wrong. There was a very strong belief that, he needs to go to the US and he will do very well in US and certain things like that. So there had been mild exacerbations on and on of symptoms, and they had been continuously under care of one or the other psychiatrist. But in 2018, following discontinuation of medication, what happened is that he became extremely aggressive and he was unmanageable at home. And following which, he was admitted at PsyCare, and we started him on treatment initially for acute management of his symptoms. And following his improvement in symptoms, because discontinuation of medication was the primary reason for which there was such a severe breakdown in the patient. So to ensure that he does not discontinue medication, we put him on a long acting injectable form of the medication, following which he was stable. And after that, we continued with session for the patient and for the family. So what he felt is that the early symptoms which was there was mainly related to anxiety and inability to focus on studies, and subsequently other symptoms came up like the aggression, the false belief, and so on and so forth. So, and with dealing with the problem over such a long period of time had been very tough for the family, and they could manage all of this by educating themselves about the illness, being in constant contact with the health professionals.
So, Madhuji, what is your view about this, your experience? Can you please share your experience as an NGO volunteer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Asif. Dr. Asif, before I joined the volunteer NGO, I went back into, I was into teaching for nearly 20 years. I was teaching the +2, which means, 11th and 12th. And, during parent-teacher meetings, very often, I mean, not everybody, the percentage was pretty low. Parents would come and say कि ये attention नहीं देता पढ़ाई में, खोया खोया रहता है, ये आवाजें सुनाई देती हैं, इसको लगता है इसका कोई पीछा कर रहा है. So, at that time we thought maybe he's just, trying to play truant and doesn't want to study. But later on, when I got into the mental health sector, I realized that, this could have been an anxiety hoती है, this could have been possibly the early beginnings of schizophrenia or some other serious mental disorder. But since I did not have the awareness at that point, we just let it go as ke, हो सकता है mood खराब है, पढ़ना नहीं चाहता, father से नहीं बनती, डरता है. So a lot of these things went undiagnosed. And later on, when I joined the NGO and I'm still volunteering there, I also saw that, very often clients who came in, they came in their early 20s or maybe late 30s, people from IITs, people from, doctors came in, because nobody, and, when we spoke to them, when we took their history, because, I was only dealing with their I feel sessions. So very often they said that nobody paid attention to whether it was our workplace or somewhere else. So I think, sir, definitely an early intervention would go a long way in, maybe, I'm not saying it would cure them or make them better, but definitely give them a better quality of life. Similarly, a lot of cases get even diagnosed when, these young people join their workplaces. So I know of something, he got a job with, Google Bangalore, and somewhere these symptoms started coming up, but people said, but a high profile job, hai, he can't function, there's so much stress, he's away from family. And unfortunately, this close family friend's son committed, suicide. He was barely 25, 26. And later on, when the symptoms were, diagnosed, possibly it was a mental illness or could have been schizophrenia. So yes, definitely, I think in early intervention, awareness at all levels, at the school level also now. So I think an awareness with school teachers, with, HRs of officers, and even, these training institutes, our IITs, our IIM, our, medical colleges. I think it's very essential to also rope them in basic being able to identify. See, the final intervention, the final would still remain with the psychiatrist. I mean, only a psychiatrist could be able to assess and say what is the nature of the illness. But I think a basic information on how to be able to identify symptoms should be made available to these people.
Thank you very much, Madhuji. I think you made a very valid point about early intervention. And, I think that another bane of mental health professionals is that many, I would say majority of the patients reach us very late. Even in this case, this boy also was in his 11th, 12th. Unfortunately, yes, most of the psychiatric disorders start in a young age, except for, of course, dementia and a few others. Majority of them start in the young age. And early intervention, definitely it has been proven adequately in scientific literature that early intervention also improves the eventual prognosis of the patient.
Absolutely.
So it is that classical Dr. Grewal that we keep saying a stitch in time saves 9. So if we could identify the illness at an early stage, then we can alter favorably the course of the illness also.
Yes.
Now, many of the patients reach us after not weeks, months, even years of suffering, they land with us. So that is unfortunate and we need to address that. There are some related questions which have come. Dr. Grewal, thank you for drawing my attention to the chat box. That I think we can address those questions right here. This is for you, Namrata. There is a question that if a patient of schizophrenia does not want to work other than a few home-related work, how does one motivate that person? Now, this I think you will have to answer in two parts. Is one patient who's suffering from the active illness, and second is also another question which has come in: is should we be strict with that patient, and force him to do work? So please, can you address this?
Right, Dr. Asif. So this is a very important question. A lot of time we see that a patient with schizophrenia at home would prefer to sleep most of the time or will remain inactive. So we have to here understand as a caregiver that it can be a negative symptom of schizophrenia that we are dealing with. While positive symptoms of schizophrenia subsides with medication, negative symptoms of schizophrenia may linger on, which include social withdrawal, poor self-care, amotivation, apathy. So we need to deal with it with utmost of sensitivity without thinking or feeling that they are maybe just pretending or they are just faking. They are just being lazy. It is not so. So we as a caregiver need to motivate them. We don't have to be strict with them, but we can be little tactful with them. So there is a technique which is called token economy that we use very often in our practice, in our psychology, that you can actually structure the patient's day. You can actually structure their day. You can make a routine, paste it somewhere where they can see, and with each activity that they complete, you can give a token to them, and that token over a week's time they can redeem it for one of their favorite thing, probably a choice of their food, a movie time, going to a mall, anything that they would like to do. So they will also be motivated towards maintaining a routine, right? But then it's a process where we have to be patient. It's a slow process. We have to be patient while we are motivating them. So this is one of the way by which we can actually help them in having a structured routine while understanding that this can still be a symptom of schizophrenia.
Everyone's right.
I
Yeah.
hope that answers.
May I add on this, Dr. Asif?
Yes, of course. Please.
Yeah. So,
Please.
continuing from the routine bit, when the pandemic happened, we had to close our daycare center. So it took us 2 weeks to. So basically now what I do with them is a I feel session, where every Friday we sit down and we discuss their feeling level. But you'll be surprised that we've been able to maintain that regularly on Zoom, even on a virtual this thing. Also, it's very important. I want to bring in here this concept of a normal and abnormal. The fact that whenever schizophrenia is diagnosed, it could be at different stages. It could be somebody could be diagnosed at a very early stage. So his needs, his care may be very different from somebody who's diagnosed at a later stage. Also the fact that very often when you speak to them, they said hame log normal nahi bulate hain. They themselves feel कि मैं abnormal हूँ, because the general society outside uses this term so loosely. I think what we also have to make them aware, which we do in our daycare center, is a new definition of normal. So for somebody, a normal may just be being able to go to the market, buying bread and milk and come back. For a second person, a normal may also mean he goes for his computer classes, he goes for his tabla classes. So I think in a daycare setting where I usually go, it's very important that we are able to, I think somebody needs to mute. Yeah.
I would request all of the participants to put your mics on mute unless you're speaking.
Yeah, so coming back to when
Kindly put your mics on mute. It is causing disturbance in the webinar. I would request all the participants to kindly put your mics on mute.
Yes, I think now we can.
Okay. Yeah. So coming back to a daycare setting, I think routine, as you said, somebody had also asked that, how do we make that routine? So I think routine also happens with the family support. So we have a task, how do you give them, but you cannot assess everybody at the same level. So I would again reiterate that this concept of normal and abnormal is a big stigma with them. They don't feel the same because very loosely we use the term. So I think we need to make them aware, the families, anybody handling them, that everybody has a different parameter of a normal. So we have to define that new normal for, different people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madhuji. So, the questions on the chat box have been coming in, and there are certain questions related to the medication management and the treatment of the illness. So I will answer that specifically in the end, but there is another question related to the effect on the caregivers. And I think, Namrata, you would be the right person to address this query which has come in. That what is the effect of the illness on the spouse and the family, and how the family should react and deal with them. So here, what is the role of expressed emotion and things like that? So would you like to share your views?
Right. So about the effect of the illness on spouse and other family members, we must understand that schizophrenia is a chronic mental illness, can be a chronic mental illness, and the treatment of it can go for years, and it is relapsing in nature. So a family may observe that a patient is maintaining well with medication for a number of years, may have a relapse, then again taken to a doctor, maybe 1 or 2 hospitalization, then again the medication continues. So it's a chronic mental illness, and it has a bearing on caregiver as well. So there are two things that we observe here. One is caregiver's burden, and second is the expressed emotions. So caregiver's burden means that by giving a prolonged care to the family members, they also get stressed. They may also develop a lot of distress, stress, depression like features, for which it is very important that they also seek counseling time to time from the therapist, from the counselor, whomsoever they are seeing, to de-stress themselves, to take a break, so that they can be able to provide a better care to the family member, to the person who is suffering, who is living with schizophrenia. The second aspect of it is the caregivers. The second aspect of it is the expressed emotions. When we talk about expressed emotions, there are basically 3 types of expressed emotions that we usually see. At times, the burden becomes so intense that they either become very much critical of the patient, or they become very over involved with the entire treatment thing, and or they may turn hostile towards the patient. So in either of the condition, it is very important for the family members to remain in touch of the therapist, right, so that they can address their issues, their expressed emotions, because they significantly hinder their overall prognosis, the overall prognosis with the person who is living with schizophrenia, with their just being just over critical about them, by just passing some remark like, you are just pretending, you are not sick, why don't you get up and you go to work, or by becoming over involved in their entire process, like, you should also be doing this, you should also be doing that, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, or by simply being hostile towards them with some of their verbals or non-verbals. So this in a way affects their treatment, their prognosis in a very negative way. So the answer to both caregivers burden and expressed emotion is to remain in touch with their treating team, to remain in touch with their psychotherapist, so that these issues can also be addressed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Namrata. I would like to bring in here Rajeshwari ji. She has been a pioneer of the family care movement. She's the mother of a schizophrenic. She runs her own organization called Roshni, and today she is the torchbearer for families in not only in Delhi but also she's a spokesman and a forum for so many other bodies. Namrata, when I meet families in the daycare, a very relevant question comes up. क्या हम इनका शादी कर सकते हैं? Can we get the clients with schizophrenia married? I think I would like to address this to Dr. Asif because he would be the best person to answer this. Dr. Asif.
Yeah, thank you. I think we have time for a quick poll. This was such an important question that I had thought, we might need a poll on that. So Manish, would you be able to run the poll on marriage?
Sure, just
I would like the views of the house, and I would like an honest opinion what you feel, because as I said, it's an interactive session. We would also like to learn from you. What do you think about these things, so that maybe we are wrong and we need to address. Yeah, so the poll is in front of you. Quick answer on that, because it's a simple question. Can a person with schizophrenia get married and have children? So yes, no, can't say. Okay, another 5 seconds. Right. Okay. Manish, you can share the results. So again, very interesting findings have come, Dr. Grewal. 41% of the people, 41% of the people feel that yes, it is good to get married, right? 16% of the people feel no, they shouldn't marry because all children will have schizophrenia, and 44% are fence sitters who say they can't say. And
Dr. Asif, they are not fence sitters. They are reflective of the genuine feeling in society.
Yeah,
I feel they are more certain than the ones who say that they can get married. Let me tell you this, it's the reverse.
Okay, yes, that's a fair point that you made.
They are the opinion makers in society.
So
in this context.
And it is a very difficult question to answer with a yes or no.
Yeah, no, but I will come to that. And I'm glad that though I wrongly called them fence sitters, as you rightly said, they are probably the opinion makers. I'm glad that I have an opportunity to address these people so that they can either go to yes or no.
That's right.
No, so that percentage goes. As Ananya said, that it's a very difficult question to answer if we consider all the issues related to it. But having said that, it's also very easy to answer. The first response was, yes, it is good to get married. Now here, I would like to draw the attention of the audience that many cultures believe that iski शादी कर दो ये ठीक हो जाएगा. You know, they feel कि ये कुछ नहीं है, जिम्मेदारी नहीं ले रहा या पागलपन दिखा रहा है, कुछ नहीं है, इसकी शादी कर दो ठीक हो जाएगा. Now this is a very, very wrong way of dealing with the situation. Marriage is not therapeutic. On the contrary, a lot of people will agree with me, marriage itself can be a stress, especially in the initial few years. And so a marriage can initially worsen the course of the illness because it comes with added responsibilities. Second thing is, when people get married for this reason, because parents are saying iski shadi kar do aur ye theek ho jayega, they invariably do not inform the prospective in-laws about the illness. So, so now apart from the illness, another new thing comes in, that they have deception. They have deceived about the illness, they've concealed about the illness. That itself causes trust issues and leads to divorces. So having said that, the fact also remains that marriage brings about a lot of stability in an individual's life. So marriage may have an individual who's suffering from schizophrenia have a companion, have a caregiver who will help them deal with the illness. But that will happen only if they knew about the illness and right at the beginning. So now second option was no, all children will have schizophrenia. Here I would like to take recourse of scientific figures which are available with us. There is a genetic contribution of the illness, but it is not 100%. Even twins, even monozygotic twins, do not have 100% concordance rate. Studies have shown that if one of the monozygotic twins who shares actually the genetic material with the other twin has schizophrenia, there's only 50% chance that the other child will have. So genetic contribution is not the be all and end all. In general population, the lifetime prevalence of schizophrenia is 1%. If one of the parent has schizophrenia, sir, the prevalence is only 10%. So that means still 90% chance is there that the child will not have schizophrenia. It's only gone up to 10%. Now, if both parents have schizophrenia, this also we have seen at our center that, the families were slightly more well educated and they decided कि दूसरे की जिंदगी क्यों खराब करनी है, चलो we'll also find another patient of schizophrenia and get the two married, which has its own complications. But even then, what I'm trying to drive the point home is that even when both the parents have schizophrenia, the child having schizophrenia is only 20%. So genetic contribution is only that much. Marriage, definitely advisable based on inputs from the mental health professionals, with the caveat that prospectively they should be informed about the illness and they should seek genetic counseling from a mental health professional who can advise them. But definitely schizophrenia is not a contraindication to marriage. If there are contraindications to marriage, there may be many others which all of us are aware and we don't need to take a poll. So, Madhu,
there's another thing that I wanted to add is that when you talk about someone getting married, in case of a person who is living with schizophrenia, it is also important that he should be in a stable state.
Yes.
In an acute state, when the patient is very symptomatic, it is not advisable at that stage. So it also depends upon how the patient is doing. If the patient is stable and is maintaining well, then definitely we can consider the option of marriage, but not prior to that.
Yes. In that acute phase, there's another question which has come in, whether patients of schizophrenia are violent. This is a question which has come in. This is from Karuna Kini. This is another point that I want to address here. Violence is not more common in patients of schizophrenia than general population. Let me tell you, more crimes are committed by normal people than patients of schizophrenia. Violence is more commonly due to social issues rather than due to schizophrenia. What is a problem is that the violence of schizophrenia is unpredictable. You don't know when it will happen and for what reason. He may be harboring under the influence of his illnesses, where there may be command auditory hallucinations telling him that please assault him, kill him, do that. So he may respond to that, but that's not very common. And there's certainly nothing to be scared about with patients of schizophrenia that there will be violence, Yes, Dr. Grewal, your question here?
No, the violent behavior of schizophrenia is more movie related.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, the impression that was shown in movies that schizophrenics are like that, like that, like that. So we all carry that impression. And
yes,
the
sir.
important point you just said was more violence is by non-mental health people, patients. I
yes,
think,
sir.
If you can answer some more questions quickly, Dr. Asif, I'll appreciate it.
Yes, sir. This violence is something that I would just quickly finish, sir, because again, this is a myth which actually negatively influences our patients and also the caregivers. Now they feel that these violent patients are brought, when they're unmanageable, they get hospitalized, they're brought to psych care. And many of these relatives, as you said, again, taking off from the movies, they have this mental image of an asylum where they think that the patient will be chained and patient will be beaten up. And that's the reason why they don't want to bring to a psychiatric hospital. Sir? And, the subject of influence of of movies, of Bollywood and Hollywood on mental illnesses can actually be the subject of another webinar.
Yeah.
They have done so much harm. They have caused so much of stigmatizing that I can't even begin to say. So we have these concerns which actually which act as an obstacle to treatment, sir. Families ask, Dr. Asif, I will be leaving this patient with you, and you people will tie him up, you will beat him. I have to very politely explain to them, okay, ma'am, we have ways of causing chemical restraint, which is by injectables, and the staff is trained to treat them like that. If the chemical restraint doesn't work, then we have to go to physical restraint, and it is very clearly laid out medically as to how physical restraint is to be applied. So the chance of violence with your patient is absolutely negligible in a mental health hospital. So this is with the violence that I wanted to say. And I think we have spoken quite a bit about the illness.
There was a question about OCD. No, two questions. One is, has there been an increase in attacks of schizophrenia since this lockdown?
Yes, sir. That's something actually I was sure I was waiting for this question. The impact of the pandemic and the lockdown has been twofold. One is on the general population, which all of us are facing, and one on the patients of mental illnesses, including schizophrenia. General population, all of us have faced, so I won't go into details with that. We've had so many webinars. I will restrict to patients of mental illnesses. Yes, sir.
I'm ready to share. I'm willing to share. On Friday, I went and got a COVID test done for myself.
Yeah.
I became a victim of a vicious cycle of thought process, and everything that is happening either in my ears or my throat,
yes, sir,
I related to the illness, and it came to a point where I just couldn't function normally, and I went and got a COVID test done.
Yes,
I want
sir.
to share with everybody that this can happen to anybody.
Absolutely. I'm 100% in agreement.
COVID can cause not a schizophrenic illness. Please, Dr. Asif, correct me. May not cause a schizophrenic illness, but can definitely heighten an anxiety and a panic response wherein your judgmental thinking goes down. I think I want you to highlight on this, please.
Absolutely, sir. Now, the fear about COVID is not unfounded. It is not baseless, sir. It's only the level and the extent to which that anxiety rises.
Yes.
And what impact it is having on our role functioning. And as healthcare workers, sir, our concern and anxiety, I really feel that we must have a webinar for all doctors about how to deal with the mental health issues of COVID, the doctors themselves.
For themselves, that's right. That's right.
Because they are specifically placed in additional stresses to this isolation and quarantine. They are actually being called warriors and all that is fine. But they are the ones who are thrown into physical threat of contact. So there is a lot of uncertainty, there is a lot of anxiety, there are a lot of ethical dilemmas that they will face, which we are hearing in other countries, that ventilator having to be taken off from an old patient and given to a young patient. You can imagine the impact it will have on the doctor there, sir.
Absolutely.
Apart from that, they have these long hours, shift hours of duty that they're doing. And fourthly, they cannot go back to their families at the end of their work. They have to quarantine themselves.
If I have to sum it up, they are being clapped as warriors, but their duty is causing a lot of disruptive working.
Correct.
Wearing a PPE, wearing all those. So it's disrupting their normal way of working. And it's not simple to adjust as human beings to that. So remember, I think it's, my only concern is, I want this comment, borderline anxious and borderline depressive doctors who were coping with their life, can they have a relapse during this period of COVID?
Definitely, sir. Definitely. The stress can act as a precipitator and trigger.
Trigger. No, not
just
trigger,
not cause.
No, not relapse. They can trigger.
It can trigger. And in patients, so these are about these three: general population, doctors, and patients. Patients, I'll tell you from experience at PsyCare that our admissions have increased, sir. That is first impact of COVID. That, and second, This is due to the reason also that due to the lockdown, people are not able to get medicines. Psycare is trying to do door delivery. And in fact, this patient also that Ananya spoke about, we delivered in Gurgaon and my team faced huge difficulty. Third thing is this condition, this lockdown, which has imposed our personal space, our liberty and things like that, has actually affected the frame of mind of all individuals, including patients of schizophrenia. So there is one patient who is admitted with us right now, who is a direct consequence, I would say, of COVID. Now, when this lockdown and all happened, as part of his illness, he believed that the whole country was conspiring and the Modi ji was also conspiring, and to actually lock him in his house, they have declared on this.
That's right.
And he became so scared that he wanted to run away, and his family brought him and admitted him. Yes, Dr.
I think one question that ranges in all our minds, and I speak on behalf of a number of patients and I hear that question. Can you, in one line, say that treatment for schizophrenia is lifelong, may not be with medicine or without medicine? I think I'd like you to answer that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I think that now that we are coming to treatment, we are also coming close to the conclusion of our session, because we would like to end with management of this illness. And so many people have asked this question, so I will deal with management issues here. First is, no, sir. Treatment is not lifelong. Let me go out on a limb as a psychiatrist with 25 years of experience, for whatever it is worth, and commit and say that treatment is not lifelong. It is long. It is long.
When you say treatment, you mean you are including the counseling part also?
Yes, management.
Okay.
Management, which is treatment with medications and counseling both. It's certainly not lifelong, it is long. Now, how long will depend on those prognostic factors, beginning with the first one, that early diagnosis, right? Early intervention, early institution of therapy, minimal relapses, good family support systems, no high expressed emotion in the family, psychoeducation, with all these positive factors.
What does this term mean? High expressive emotion in the family? What does this term mean?
Yes, sir. It has been found, and there's a lot of scientific literature on this, that the caregivers and the families of patients of schizophrenia actually develop a certain way of dealing with these patients. So they become highly critical of them. They think that they can keep giving them suggestions. They can keep telling them to do this, do that, because they feel that with this they will recover. Now, scientific literature has proved it absolutely unambiguously that high expressed emotion actually is detrimental and causes more relapses. So that's why the role of psychologists, where they need to teach the family how to deal with these people when they go back home after they are discharged. And as Madhuji rightly brought out, that there are courses of the illness, which is a waxing and waning illness. So they need to know how to deal with them. And the one question again related to management is from a friend of mine whose relative is admitted. Is there a cure for schizophrenia? Do they have to take medication lifelong again? And does the family caregiver also need psychological counseling and support? So I think I've answered that in my response. And there is another question. Is there a cure for schizophrenia? Do they have to take medicine lifelong? Again, this question. So that's
How does one deal with OCD during COVID? I don't know.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, OCD is an illness where an individual has irrational thoughts repeatedly coming to his mind, which he tries to exclude from his consciousness, fails to do it. And when he tries to exclude it from his consciousness, he keeps getting more and more anxious. That is what is a typical definition of obsession. But here you will see the first word which I said was irrational fear. And the commonest irrational fear, the theme is dirt and contamination. So a patient of OCD, sir, keeps getting this thought that my hands are dirty. So he keeps washing his hands again and again. He realizes that it is irrational, there's nothing happened, and hence he should not be washing. He tries
But
not
today-
to wash.
Today we are being told to wash it again and
Yeah,
again.
so that's what I'm coming to, sir. So that's what I'm coming to. So that is the irrational fear of OCD. Here it is a rational fear, sir. You need to take that precaution. It is rational, it is not an obsession.
Right.
However, if the medical professional WHO is telling you to wash only 6 times a day or 8 times, or whenever you touch something, and you're able to control yourself to that much, you don't have OCD. But if you are totally seized of this, your mind can think of nothing other than washing your hands, then you develop OCD. Unlikely that COVID will cause OCD in normal people, but definitely people who already have OCD, their irrational fear unfortunately has been made rational now, sir. So it is likely to get aggravated, and definitely OCD patients are in the worst phase of their lives, where the worst of their fears have come true. And some of them may say कि देखो मैं तो हमेशा से बोलती थी कि ये हाथ धोते रहो, देखो अब तो सब बोल रहे हैं.
Can a schizophrenic have independent working?
Yes, sir. You see that there's another question was there earlier on Facebook saying that do only intelligent people get schizophrenia? That's the other side. This is again.
Then I'll never get it.
yeah. So you are past that age. So that movie called A Beautiful Mind, which deals with a real life story of Professor John Nash, who was a Nobel laureate and was a patient of schizophrenia. So all possibilities are there, sir. It spares no one. It can affect very, very intelligent people as well as normal people like you and I. I would just like to, I think this could be the concluding part of the discussion, because I'm sure that we've carried on for quite some time. I would like to talk about the prognosis of schizophrenia based on scientific literature, sir, and my own experience. Let's do away with the stigma. Let's do away with our myths. I think our society has suffered for too long, and we need to go back to our roots, which is research. And that's why I'm so happy that Dr. Bobby mentioned that prior to research giving us so many inputs, we had so many myths about schizophrenia. So the future outcome of schizophrenia, what is it? Sir, the studies have proven over the past 40 years that there are only three courses of schizophrenia, the natural history of the illness. Okay. First category is that who will recover totally, sir. Who will recover totally. Second category is that with management, with adequate care, they will continue to function at a baseline level where they will be able to carry on with their activities of daily living and lead an independent functional life. And third category is those which will keep constantly deteriorating, and it will be a progressive downhill course despite the best of the efforts.
Best.
And now again it is the results are split. 33%, 33%. Each of this category is 1/3. 1/3 of the people will recover totally, 1/3 will be able to manage, 1/3 will keep getting worse. Now we don't know who will fit into this category, but one thing I can definitely emphasize is that with treatment, the prognosis gets better. So like in COVID, we are talking about flattening the curve. I think here we should talk about improving the curve. The people who are in the baseline are going to be progressively downhill. We try and recover them where they can manage their life. Those who are just managing their life, we make them recover to the best of their abilities. And that is the best answer that I can give, sir, about the future prognosis of schizophrenia. And this is a question which everybody has, so I hope that's addressed it.
You can invite Namrata, you can invite Dr. Bakshi to give the final vote of thanks.
Yeah, so that was quite an interactive session and quite informative. And there are a lot of question and answers that has been answered, and those which we couldn't answer, we'll get back individually to them and we'll try to answer each one of them via mails. So now moving towards the end, moving towards the conclusion, I would like to invite Dr. R.K. Bakshi, Finance Secretary 1920 and 2021 to give vote of thanks and conclude the session. Dr. R.K. Bakshi.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me in. Thanks, Dr. Asif Iqbal. You organized a very great session. The ups and downs of the session, sometimes I realized that we were understanding something and just next sentence we would realize that I am nowhere back. I'm back to square one, right? The initial, I would appreciate Dr. Ananya's lecture, Amrita Upadhyay, Madam Madhu Juneja ji. Everyone spoke very relevant and to the point, and the answers were very straightforward to us. No matter if we don't have the straight answers to a disease, that is a very different thing. We need to understand that. You made us aware for early intervention. Whenever we find a person, we can diagnose something and do something about it. In a lighter note, if you said not in contact with reality is something to be picked up. So maybe all our IMA leaders and everyone and DMA leaders particularly, they are not in that. I don't know whether I can call them that or not. Into the part. Right. So far as the marriage question was concerned, I could understand it is a case-to-case basis grading. Grading of disease is important. And thank you so much. End of the day, you made us clear that everyone is on a borderline. And if we take care of ourselves, the other circumstantial factors, then maybe we can treat others and not treat ourselves. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And at the end, I would like to thank Dr. Bobby Grewal and all of IMA to support PsyCare and its endeavor. It's a very noble cause, sir, and I'm so happy to have your support, and we shall continue to deal with mental health illnesses together in the future as well. I hope.
I think I'll take the liberty of jutting in now for all the panelists and the attendees. With Namrata having been our star moderator, it again proves the first point I mentioned, that the power of research and knowledge has nothing to do with age. Usually we all say, "Mujhe experience hai ki main ye kar dunga." Here comes a young lady and talks much more science and much more sense than she must be half my age. But we have to start understanding that the power is not in the age, but the power is in the knowledge. And she has the knowledge. We all were able to get that knowledge from her. Thank you, Namrata, and thank you, Asif. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind words, sir.
Hello. And next time, hello?
Yeah.
Yes,
Next time, I think we'll see Dr. Grewal also in purple. This also represents the elder psychiatric care.
That's
right.
So he's been talking of that.
Thank you.
Manish, thank you all of you, and we will reply to your answers, which I could not address now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Doctor.
I think the poll arrangement you made was just beautiful.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. It was so crisp, so fast, and I want to learn how to do that, because that was, I think, the key. And next time, Namrata, have more poll questions. It reflects it gives you the knowledge of the participants and lets you immediately answer that. So I think
Yes,
the poll
sir.
was a very good idea.
Actually, there were some more polls, but they came in the chat box, so we didn't conduct it.
Yeah,
And
true.
could have.
So
So thank you
it's
so
very
much.
good, very good.
Thank you all of
Right.
you.
Thank you, Asif, and
Bye-bye.
Eid Mubarak once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was a very enjoyable Eid being with you all.
Bye.
Bye.